Variety of them that have to do. These are basically functions. It shows you examples of various type of expressions, and an expression you should be used to from math, a mathematical expression. It shows you some of the built-in expressions or functions, built-in functions that you can use with MySQL. Truncate, the if, the embedded if, which is nice. Not all versions of SQL have that. It's a very nice addition. You can do numeric mathematical equations as well. Those are all parts of expressions. Shows you what happens when you mix numbers and strings. The default is to do a concatenation. Or actually, I should say just the opposite. The default is to attempt to do an implied cast. In most other languages, the default is to do concatenation. Concat function is also useful, so if you want to do a concatenation, you have to do it that way. Let's see. Comparisons are usually not case sensitive, but when you start getting into different language sets, they do become case sensitive. So normally not something we have to worry about, but if you're writing international applications, that could be an issue. Binary data, of course, is always case sensitive because in that particular case you're comparing raw bytes. It's not going through any sort of character set translation. So and recall that in binary, upper and lower case has two different values. And you've got some pretty standard functions. Upper and lower case conversions are generally fairly standard across implementations of SQL and also in a lot of host languages like Java. They usually have a method for converting it. Like operator for pattern matching, very important. You'll see that a lot. So one question is, why would someone use binary strings? One of the reasons you might use a binary string is for passwords. You may decide you want your passwords to be case sensitive. That's why you would use a binary string with passwords. You definitely should know how to do all the different comparison operators, the percent sign and the underscore. So some examples here and also on the YouTubes to look through. Alright, so that should all be fairly straightforward. Let me know if anyone has any questions. The in operator is pretty neat. I know I talk about it in the YouTube videos about how it's more efficient than a bunch of ORs. And there's a comparison here. The in and not in operators are definitely more efficient than a bunch of ORs. The between clause is also more efficient. I'm sure I explained that in the YouTube videos. Date and time comparisons get very complicated. And almost all databases, in fact almost all languages, have a series of helper functions to deal with it, including MySQL. And you get a bunch of other functions like pi, for example, and mathematical functions that are helpful. So there's a lot of those, again, all on the YouTubes. The case statement, which works a little bit like a case statement in a lot of programming languages. It's another way of doing a sort of an if. Mathematical functions, there's a whole bunch of them there. I should be familiar with them. Some of them are very useful. So stop me and let me know if anyone's got any questions. I'm going through this quickly because it's on the YouTube, which you should have went through before class. passwords, you can do encryption. Most databases provide different types of ways of doing encryption. So passwords, you may want to take them in binary, which is generally pretty popular if you want to make them case sensitive. And then if you want to store them, there's a couple of functions for doing encryption. Very useful as well. So not only passwords, but there may be other data you want to encrypt. Again, temporal functions or time-date functions. Doing date-time math can be very complicated because months have different numbers of days in it, and how do you handle when you go over and things like that. Comments in MySQL work similar to other languages, and I did get one question on this particular comment here. This is not actually a comment. What MySQL and most other databases do is they allow you to uh, embed information in something that looks like a comment um, that's actually a command. And the way it works a lot of times is that, there's a couple of reasons why you might want to do this. Um, One reason is that you might want to give MySQL specific instructions or version specific functions, and you put it in the format that is a comment, because if it is not understood by the database or the version you're using, it will be ignored as a comment. So there was a question on that. And so one of the reasons is to basically, if you're writing a script that you want to run across multiple versions, even multiple different databases, you could embed it in a comment, and it will be ignored by those that don't understand it. Right, and so one of the specific examples was the 50,002, which didn't exist until MySQL 5. There are also, in some cases, they're considered hints to the optimizer as well. And other than that, you have the fairly standard comments, the slash asterisk, asterisk slash, the multi-line comment. The dash dash is a single line comment. Those of you familiar with some programming languages, you have a slash slash in Java, JavaScript, and other languages for a single line comment. In MySQL, it's a dash dash. You've also got the pound sign, which does a single line comment, and that comes from a lot of Unix type scripting languages such as Perl and Awk and Unix Shell. Okay, again, updating this section here talks about that although the columns in an insert statement are optional, you really should provide them. And it goes over why, and that's often a question on one of the tests. Create commands are also very important. Talks about creating them in data types, primary keys, which should be similar to other languages. Is that because there's not supposed to be a space? I haven't tried that specific command in a while. I didn't think there being a space or not being a space would matter, actually. So are you saying you removed the space and it worked? You didn't try. Partly depends upon what version you have, but if you're running 5.0 and higher, I thought the space didn't matter one way or the other, Brad. So Daniel, you said it worked for you. What version of MySQL are you guys on?